Hi everybody, we're out in the garage tonight, keeping it old school, talking about what's going on in the world like Grandpa used to do. I'm Joshua Gaiman, this is joshuagaming.com. I haven't put a whole lot of content out lately on the show, on my blog, and the reason is quite simple. Instead of complaining about the system, which if you watch the show regularly, you know how I feel about that already, I've been spending my time educating myself financially and trying to learn and apply ways that I can use the new rules of money to my financial advantage, building a business that creates real value. But I want to share something with you in hopes that you can use this to your financial advantage and to understand what is going on. So what are the world banks doing, and what's all this I hear about Europe and the big financial disasters going on over there? It's really simple. They're making sure there's more money in the system. Of course, they call this liquidity. So what's going on to fix it? The Federal Reserve is selling the dollars that they print out of thin air. The European banks are buying it in their currency. They call this lowering prices on dollar liquidity swaps. Again. So why is this going on? Why now? Because the cost of getting dollars was getting more expensive. In fact, skyrocketing. And the European Union banks were lending out of their own money to lend. This was threatening a freeze on the whole European financial system, and therefore creating a huge potential disaster on the global financial system. So why don't the small European banks have their own money to lend? Well, they made bad investments. This is the exact same thing that happened in 2008 when the Federal Reserve bailed out the banks. They made bad investments, put bad assets on their books that lost money, and then instead of going into the ground, which would have jeopardized the whole system and crucified the dollar because debt would have stopped, they bailed out these banks with the US taxpayer dollars. So why is this bad for us? It puts more dollars into the system, inflates the dollar, and makes the cost of living go up for me and you and our family and friends. So what world banks are participating in this? USA, Federal Reserve, England, Japan, Canada, Switzerland, and the European Union. Why? They say it's a worldwide coordinated effort to keep Europe alive. What the Europe would still be around just because the euro were to crash or the banks were to crash. This doesn't stop Europe. To keep the system alive, the system of debt. If a major player like the EU, European Union, goes under, it threatens the entire global financial system and makes less valuable the only thing these world banks sell, debt. So what will this do? Well, I truly do believe that this will prevent side effects of a global financial crisis, but will do nothing to slow or stop the cancer that is eating alive the financial system and the dollar. Why? The European Union sovereign debt crisis is still way out of hand. What's the real world explanation of that? The interest on the current debt that Europe has is more money than they can afford to pay. It's like when your credit cards are maxed out and the minimum payments on those credit cards become more money than you make in a month. You can't pay them anymore. Same thing's going on in the US. So what does it mean for you and me? How can we benefit from this? Well, the bad news is that it means the cost of living is going up. Inflation's coming. Inflation is a hidden tax. We don't know about it. We just see the things in the grocery store rise in price while our wages don't, or they actually might decrease. The Federal Reserve will keep printing money out of thin air so that they can sell it to the United States and to other countries and economies to keep the system of debt alive. They'll do whatever they have to do. They'll manipulate everything as they force the dollar to a value of zero, which will basically, therefore, force the value of every currency in all developed countries to zero. So what can you do about it? You can invest in precious metals like gold and silver as a hedge against inflation. Other things you can do is invest in cash flowing real estate. The beauty of cash flowing real estate is it has amazing tax advantages. In fact, if you're good enough at it, you can get away with paying no taxes. The reason is because the government needs housing. Houses that put money in your pocket. These are the kinds of properties you want to have. They're real. Anything that's real, which is what they call commodities, is going to go up in value as our currency goes to nothing. And most importantly, take advantage of this opportunity. These banks are selling cheap money in a desperation effort to keep the debt system alive. Take advantage by using that money to create good debt for yourself. And what is good debt? Good debt is debt that you take on that puts money in your pocket. Meaning the asset that you acquire with that debt generates you more cash flow than the expense that you have to carry that debt. Get enough of this built up, you can kick back and live off your cash flow. That is financial freedom. So is all this stuff that's going on with these world banks and the EU or European Union, is it quantitative easing? Well, yes and no. By definition, no, it's not quantitative easing, but in all reality, all these things that are going on by the central banks and the world banks are all similar. Quantitative easing, QE1, QE2, the coming QE3, Operation Twist, the bailout, they're all derivatives of the cancer that our currency has and the global financial system has. I hope that makes some sense to you and you learned something. I hope you can apply it to your own life. And like I always say, financial education is the most important thing. Without it, you're really just gambling. Leave a comment below, get in touch with me. I'd love to talk to you guys, and we'll catch up with you real soon here at joshuagaming.com or my YouTube channel, HighGross14.